Hello and welcome to this episode of the Joy Journey podcast. In this powerful and vulnerable episode, my bestie, Ms. Mandy Trapp, vulnerably shares her childhood story, her never before told pain to power story, if you will. She talks about how she went from fear and hiding essentially to global impact, and opens up about how her pain became the foundation of her purpose. We talk about the moment that she realized she'd always been meditating. As always, we have, the laughter, the tears, all of it and in between. It's like sitting in on a heart to heart between two best friends and navigating both the messiness and the magic of this life. This is just part one, and trust us, you're going to want to stick around for what's coming next. So cozy up and let's dive in. Hey there, it's Jillian, your guide to all things joy, and this is the Joy Journey podcast. Oh my God. Hello. And welcome to the Joy Journey podcast. I sing every single time. Today, I am so excited to bring you my favorite human in the entire world, Miss Mandy Trapp. I call her Mimi. And before we dive in, I'm going to take a moment to share a little bit about her. I feel like this is part one of many episodes where I just see us having coffee talk and chatting about things. Like we chat all the time. And I always say we should be recording this because we have the best conversations. And I really want everyone to get a glimpse into like the magic that is me and Mimi. So Mandy Trapp is a global meditation and mindfulness expert specializing in stress management and spiritual development. She's the founder of Lifestyle Meditation Academy, and she certified over 3,000 meditation and mindfulness teachers around the world. Her teachings are rooted in spiritual psychology, neuroscience, and energetic insights. She's the creator of The Practice, a membership program with a focus on supporting the mental and spiritual health of others through interactive learning and powerful practices such as meditation and breathwork. Mandy is known for her grounded, practical, and accessible approach to meditation and spirituality, which has allowed tens of thousands worldwide to confidently move through the stresses and limitations of life and towards more peace and fulfillment. She is amazing. She is the wonderful, beautiful Miss Mandy Trapp.
We need to add
Winnie.
in Snow White.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see her dog, Winnie.
One cat that I'm trying to like hold away from the keyboard from just like screwing this whole thing up. I have a dog coming in.
This is real life, you guys.
Smells like something. I don't know what she just got into outside, but
this is real life. Okay, Winnie, leave her alone.
Go, turn around and go.
Winnie,
go.
Down, out. We're not looking. Okay, welcome, Mimi. So I call her Mimi. She calls me Gigi. We're the Mimi and Gigi show. But I'm just so excited to have you on. I mean, we've wanted to do this for a while. Really just kind of dig into a little bit more about like who you are. And I feel like a lot of my community knows who you are because we're together like all the time. But this feels like an opportunity to dig in a little bit more deeply.
I think so. Yeah. Most people, anywhere and everywhere that I go, specifically around this city, the first thing they ask is, where's Jillian? I'm sure it's the other way. It's like, Jillian, where's Mandy? Like, why are you guys not together?
It's so true. I get people will be like, can you tell Mandy blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, okay. We're each other's messengers. No, I love it. Thanks for being here, honey.
It's the best. I am so glad. I'm so glad that you're doing this. Everybody needs to hear your voice. They need to hear your laughter. Oh. Podcasts are so serious. Like,
everyone's
let's just
serious.
laugh about it.
Yeah, let's laugh more.
Let's laugh. And personal development, spiritual development is so serious. There's a lot of heaviness in it. And one of the things that I'm so deeply grateful for, beyond the fact that my cat is now trying to escape out through the screen. Oh my God, this is real life right now. But one of the things that I'm so grateful for in our friendship is that not only do we challenge each other and really hold space for growth, but there's something that feels very different about our connection. And I think we're also showing other people how friendship can be done differently, how sisterhood can be done differently, even sister and brotherhood. Gigi's really good friends with my husband, John, like super close friends. And I just absolutely adore her husband, David. And we do talk about very serious things. And the world it can be a very happy place right now when you get out and look around. And it's not like we avoid those topics. I think sometimes people ask me like, do you guys just tell jokes the whole time? And like, no, we're talking about like real life shit that's happening, but it's how can we find some lightness and some buoyancy in that?
Yeah.
And I love that so much about you. And I
Mm.
knew coming on to have this conversation today, because you'd kind of already teed me up and you're like, I want to go there. I want to get to know the depths of Mandy Trapp. And yeah, I mean, there'll probably be some tears within that too, but also some lightness. So thank you for just breathing into this podcast airspace.
Mm.
Some light and some joy.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
pleasure. I feel like it gets to be both. And
Yeah.
this is why, I love you so much and our friendship so much. It's so funny. I don't know about you, but when we don't go for a while without talking and come back together, it's like, okay, the world needs us to talk more because we both crack each other up so well, like just like laughing, screaming, yelling. And also there is a seriousness. Like we solve a lot of issues with our
Usually
talks.
within the span of like 25 minutes.
Yeah, over pedicures or smoothies or whatever it is. Blizzards sometimes when we're being naughty.
Mochi ice cream.
But I feel like you're that for me as well. Like you
Mm,
really bring in so much light into my realm and remind me of like, how easy it gets to be.
mhm,
And that it is, life can feel really hard and murky and achy sometimes. And it really is around the invitation for lightness of being where we can find it. And you're that for me too. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
My
So
pleasure.
my pleasure.
My
Okay.
pleasure.
So I do feel like today is an opportunity for us to dig in a little bit more deeply. There's no pressure into like what we're going to talk about, but I know you've had a lot of your own shadow as much as joy in this lifetime. And for me, when I look at like the most spiritual people, even my own spiritual experience and connection, which really came through my pain to power story, the fire that I walked through, my sobriety journey. But I feel like a lot of us come to spirituality through trauma, if you
Mhm.
will. And like that's we can have a whole other conversation about that and like what that looks like. But it feels like, because wait a minute, I need to tell everyone how we met. Wait, pause.
Oh yeah,
What
you
in the
do.
truck,
You
man?
do.
Okay. So, cause I'm like, wait, why are like, how do I know you're spiritual? Well, so as I shared in episode 1 about my personal joy journey, I was sober for a couple years and really struggling with like still people pleasing and boundaries and really still seeking externally what was within. And David recommended me going within. I did not know what that meant, but I saw an ad for lifestyle meditation. And a week later, I was in a class with you. Turned out it was the first friggin' class of the first day you opened your studio. And serendipitous or what, I ran around the studio taking every single pamphlet, reading every single thing, looking at everything around. I was asking questions. I was like, did you make this program? Did you make these I was just like, I was blown away by you, by the energy, by the space, everything you were doing. And it really felt like a homecoming to me.
Mm.
And so, I jokingly was like, oh, we're going to become best friends. I secretly knew we were going to become best friends.
No,
And
you
then
actually told me that you're going to be my best friend. You said
you
it out
are,
loud.
you have no freaking choice.
I
And
was
she
like,
was like, okay.
fully single white female.
But soon after we started, you'd hired me for some photography because you knew I was doing branding and photography at the time. And yeah, I think like, those people again, who you just know you're meant to meet, like, you're like, why did it take us so long to find each other in this lifetime? But ever since, it's just been like absolute joy. Yeah.
Mm,
So,
pure joy.
so I know you, so like when I first met you, and I know you've used this term like spiritual leader, spiritual guide. And I don't know if you still identify with that. We can talk about that, like
Mm,
what that looks like. I checked out your IG. Looks like we're going more with like meditation breathwork facilitator and lead facilitator of that. But I mean, I feel like you have so much spiritual knowledge that you love to share. This is how I know you and see you, as someone who is like seeking and very easily transmuting to share that wisdom with others. So in terms of spirituality, like I just want to kind of dive into like who is Mandy Trapp really? And what kind of led you on this path that you find yourself on now? I know it's a very loaded question, but we've got
mm.
time to explore.
We've got time. If people are still listening, thank you for bearing in there for that very long romantic reconnection of you and I walking down memory lane. Yeah. And you know what? It was so interesting because it was, what year was that? I opened the studio, maybe 2017,
Yep.
the Lifestyle Meditation Center, and then closed it 4 short years later due to COVID, and decided instead of really waiting it out, just pivoting and doing things a bit differently, which is something that I probably do best, maybe sometimes too quickly. But actually, I had that conversation yesterday on my way home with my cousin, who brought up, she's like, man, your ability to pivot is your greatest strength. And I said, yeah, I think so. And sometimes it's also my biggest weakness is, why do I do that when I feel like something needs to change? Maybe I'm uncomfortable in it or whatever that is. But really what it all goes back to, which I think is where the awareness of my spiritual journey began in my life, is that the pivot was survival based.
Mm.
My ability to be able to protect myself was what I needed to do. I didn't necessarily always have the time, the energy, the leisure to be like, I wonder what I want to do now. It's survival based. And I guess we're just going to go there. Hey, it's
Yep.
a story that I don't tell publicly. I have not really shared this with a lot of people in my life. It feels like now is the time. A lot of people know me, and they've known me for the last over 2 decades, 25 years. As this is Mandy, and she does teach meditation and she shares these things. And even though I can be kind of this wise channeler or, transcriber of a lot of this ancient wisdom and a lot of this modern science, there is a deeper reason and purpose behind why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Right. From showing up to share meditation and breath work and to literally walk people through their own fires to, I had a non-for-profit for 10 years in India and Nepal, working in anti-sex and human trafficking shelters. I had a lot of people at the time like, why would you put yourself in these insanely high risk scenarios to do this work with these girls and sometimes these young boys? And never once really shared why that was so personal to me.
Yeah.
And so the long story short is that my mother was the oldest of 7 children, and her father was very abusive, very mentally unstable. And I don't know. I was always like, are we going to title this podcast Family Secrets? Because I think a lot of people have family secrets. I don't even know the dynamics of everything that went down. I've had bits and pieces of fragmented information from my mother, and then her youngest sibling, the youngest of the 7, who was my aunt, who grew up very close to me and more like a sister than a mother. And my mom helped to raise her. All that I think I knew was that at some point when my mom was in high school, that he left and that it was necessary. So that was the amount of information that I knew. However, do we swear on this podcast?
We sure do.
Okay, thank you. The most
Fuck.
fucked up thing was that I kind of began my life in this small little town in kind of northern Alberta. And as long as I can remember, and one of my earliest memories, I would say I was probably in kindergarten. So, like, whatever that would be, 4 or 5 years old. And I remember being at the grocery store with my mother and my younger brother, who was just over 2 years younger than I was. And we were walking out to the car, and my mom had my brother on her hip, and I was holding her hand. And as soon as we kind of got around to the side door, this old man walked up, and he was very, like nowadays, like somebody who was likely homeless and very just visually distraught, kind of walking up. And I had no context for what was going on, but all that I remember is my mom very quickly opening the door, throwing my brother in, throwing me in, slamming the door shut, having some sort of fairly heated verbal exchange, and telling him to go away and to leave our family alone.
Mm.
And she gets in the car and she drives away and she says nothing.
Mm.
And again, such a young age, not hearing, not having a context, not understanding it, but feeling the depths of that energy. One of my first experiences of like, oh my God, I'm unsafe right now. I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know who that is. So, I mean, fast forward not very far, because I was probably around the same age, and my dad was a car salesman at the time, and my mom walked us into the showroom one day to, let's go visit your dad at work. And as we walked in, I could see my dad sitting at his desk, like in the main showroom, and I could see the back of this same man in the very familiar big gray. It actually still like is quite traumatizing for me to share this out loud, but it's cathartic. I
Mm-hmm.
remember very distinctly, even in the middle of the summer, he'd wear this big gray winter jacket, these great big boots. Um, and my mom seeing him, and she'd almost gotten too far across the room that it caught his attention, and because my dad could see us, and he turned around, and my mom again just quickly scooped up my brother and I, like ran us out to the car, and goes back in, has this exchange, and she comes back, says nothing.
Mm.
Well, very shortly after that, and we lived in a bungalow, and my bedroom was in the corner, and I had like windows kind of on both sides of the 90 degrees. I would start hearing banging on my window in the night. I would start hearing this very like eerie voice, like calling my name on the other side of the window, like moaning and groaning and like, I want to see you and I want to hold you. And like, your mother won't let me be with you. Fucking traumatizing, 5 years old. Like, what is
Mhm.
this? Um, so I didn't know who it was. I didn't know what it was. All that I know is that I felt so incredibly unsafe in my own home. I felt unsafe out in public.
Did you tell your mom about those instances?
Um, like about him banging on the windows.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I did,
Okay.
but the frequency at which we would see him was now almost daily. He'd be
Mm.
phoning the house over, and there was no such like old rotary phone. There was no call display or anything. So she'd pick up the phone, or, 6 years old, 7 years, I pick up the phone and I could just hear like this, this moaning and this crying on the other side of the phone. And my mom would just come and like hang up the phone, hang up the phone, hang up the phone. Um, and then my cousin, who was also very close with, who would babysit us all the time, she was on the other side of the family, and she would just call him the old man. And so
Mm.
all that I knew is I was being terrorized by the old man, the old man in town. And we'd drive around and we'd kind of see him and we'd like turn and go in the other direction
So the instinct was to kind of just shut it down, like to
to shut it
just
down.
put it away, like just kind
Yeah.
of push it away.
Pretend he's not there.
Yeah.
Pretend he's not there,
Mhm.
which I'm sure like now I can really hear it. I've spoken to my psychotherapist I've done a lot of work on this.
Mhm.
And I, at the same time, like deep trauma and PTSD is fucking deep.
Yeah.
Even if, you've done 20 years of work on it, when you talk about it, like I'm not as talkative as I normally am. Like I can feel it. I can feel it in my chest. I can feel it in my belly. I
Yeah.
can feel like the vulnerability and the exposure behind my back right now.
Yeah, it's
To
so
this day,
brave.
anytime I go into a restaurant, I go anywhere and I go to take a seat, I will never, ever put my back to a door or a window,
Yeah.
ever. And so we learn to kind of live our lives in this way.
Yeah.
It was also around that time, kindergarten, first grade, where I started seeing other spirits. I started getting visitations from my great grandfather who had passed, who I was really close with.
Mhm.
And actually, he had come to visit me the night before he passed, which was odd because I'd always go and see him in the seniors' home almost every day with my grandma. And then um, he came by to say goodbye, and I was quite confused at the time. And then shortly after that, like a couple hours later, my mom came into my room and she's like, "Mandy, I just want you to know that Grandpa Jack just passed away this morning."
Okay, so pause. You're saying he
Yeah.
spiritually came by to say goodbye.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was that experience? Can you describe it?
It was comforting, but it was odd because I'd never seen him in my home before.
So you literally saw him, like real
Yes,
grandpa.
full on. Like I saw his like tucked in button up shirt. I saw his like
Wow.
big old man green polyester pants. Like, and it was so warm and so comforting. And he just said like, "I love you and I'm coming to say goodbye."
Wow.
And I was like, "Goodbye? Like, what are you doing at my house? Like, this is so strange." Like he
So
was like
real.
in his 90s and, bald and toothless and all the things, but I would literally go and see him every day. And it didn't feel weird. I wasn't afraid. It just felt like the most warm and comforting experience that I'd ever had,
Yeah.
only to learn like within probably half an hour that my mom walked in saying, "Oh, by the way, he had passed." And so I, in my tiny little brain, I'm trying to reconcile that. But at the same time, I also didn't overthink it. I was like, "Oh, okay. He's dead, but this is his ghost and he keeps me comfortable and he keeps me safe."
Mm.
So what started to happen at that point of time that I actually did not have anybody connect these dots for me until about 5 years ago when I was working with a Jungian psychologist. And at that time, this psychologist said, there was this research study that was done on people who are clairvoyant. 85% of them claim to have had quite severe trauma as a child. And ultimately, what ends up happening is that the brain or the mind goes anywhere that it needs to go in order to find a sense of safety and
Mhm.
security. And I was like, well, holy shit, of course, that totally makes sense. Like, I would just start going like off dimension, like off grid, off planet. I'm like, who else is out here? Because then that opened the door, and I was like, and who are you? And whose grandma are you? And whose dog are you? And it was so normalized for me, but I didn't ever tell anybody that.
Right.
But while all of that was opening and happening, the the only way I could describe it is that the hunting, I felt hunted. I
Mhm.
felt hunted, not haunted by this person. I felt hunted by the old man that I only knew to be the old man. He would start showing up at my school. He would show up on my route home from school. And I spent so much of my time running and sprinting and hiding and locking myself inside of the house, and would be home alone, at 6 years old or 7 years old for an hour, 2 hours after school till my mom got home. And it's also where my eating disorder began, because she's like, just have a snack. I've left you a snack. Like, so much love. If anybody comes to the door, don't answer the door. And here I am hiding in my closet, like forcing food into my body while I hear somebody pound on the door for an hour, moaning and calling my name.
Mm.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
Um, then I'm 10 years old and we're moving. My mom got a job transfer. Hour and a half away, we're going to the big city. In my head, I'm like, thank God, because the old man isn't going to follow us there. He's the one that terrorizes the town and for some reason loves me, but I've never seen him in a vehicle. I'm sure he doesn't drive. Like I'm
Yeah.
creating this whole list of reasons that I don't need to be afraid anymore.
Mhm.
And I arrive in smack dab in the middle of the school year, fourth grade, feeling completely out of place. I'm like, I'm this small town girl. Everybody's already arrived. They've made connections. They know each other. I'm coming in halfway through. And on day one, the teacher introduces me. I feel a little bit awkward, and I'm here. Like, please be my friend, as we all need that sense of belonging and connection.
Yep.
And then on day two of school, it's first thing in the morning, the kids are like rowdy, rambunctious. The teacher's not in the classroom yet. But as she walks in the back, everybody starts to get a little bit more quiet. And a young boy on the other side of the classroom stands up really loud and he says, "Hey, Mandy." Everybody stops in the room. "How come you guys are so mean to your grandpa?" And I stop and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" To my knowledge, I have one grandpa, my grandpa John, my dad's dad, who was amazing and I love him and I have a wonderful relationship with him. I said, "I'm not mean to my grandpa." He goes, "Yeah, he told me and my dad yesterday that your mom moved you guys to another city to get away from him." That was how I learned that the old man was my grandfather.
Mm.
So the person who was tormenting me,
Mm.
stalking me, hunting me, was now my family. And he was here. He knew where I was.
Mm.
And so at some point, and I mean, I was in full on like stress response, fight or flight, like everything. I don't remember how and when I'd had a conversation with him that day to say, like, how do you know this? Like, where did you meet him? And he's like, "Well, my dad owns this such and such motel in town, and that's where he's staying." And he asked me if I knew you, because he was like, "Oh, my granddaughter's about this age. Is she in your school?" So starting the very next day, for the rest of that time in elementary, the rest of grade 4, all of grade 5, all in grade 6, he would come almost every single day. And during recess and lunch, he would just pace along the fence like a caged animal. And he would just call my name. Kids
Mm.
would come over to me and they're like, "Your grandpa's over there. He wants to talk to you." At this point, he'd already tried to kidnap me twice in the small town. And yeah, obviously I got away, which was great, but I was terrified. He was
Yeah.
calling the house. I can't tell you how many times a day, to the point where then you try to bring friends over in junior high and in high school, and you just kind of want to be like cool and accepted. And, the phone rings and we're all hanging out in the kitchen, and whoever's the closest to the phone like picks it up. And now my friends are hearing this person on the other side of the line, and I'm having to like train everybody. I'm like, yeah, if this person calls, like just hang up. Like everybody knew how fucked up this was, but it was like managing my whole entire life in so much fear
Yeah.
of this person
And kind of in secret.
and in secret.
Yeah.
So, people to this day, they're like, well, did your parents know? Right? Did your parents know? And like, they knew the parts. And it's one of the reasons why it's been so difficult for me to say anything or to share it out loud because I freaking love my parents. They're
Yeah.
amazing. I lost my
Yeah.
dad last year, which was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, but I truly believe that every time my mom's like, hang up the phone or drive around the block and we'll go in the back door, I truly believe, and I know like as a mother myself, that she thought that she was keeping us safe and protected and away from him.
Hmm.
I don't think she knew or knows. She'll probably listen to this and we'll have a good conversation to the extent of really what happened and what went on. I've held it from her because I don't want her to think that she did a bad job
Yeah.
because she really did do the best that she could. And I also was just so terrified that I couldn't share all of it. And, to this day, there's a part of me that's like kind of afraid to say it out loud. And I think other people that I know that this is true of a lot of other people that I've supported in have grown up like similarly with different abuse and stuff that I'm like, well, why don't you say that? And they're like, because I'm afraid that nobody will believe me. And they'll think, oh, well, but look at you, Mandy. Like, you're so perfect. You have like this amazing parents and this wonderful husband and these incredible kids. And you've been like so blessed in your life. Like, are you looking for something for people to feel sorry for you? And I'm so fucking not. But the part that I want to share and why it's always been so, so important for me to talk about mental health and to talk about mental illness is because, first of all, I never want anybody to experience what I did.
Hmm.
To feel like a prisoner in my house, in my school. He'd show up at the gym where I did gymnastics 3, 4, 5 days a week. And they'd open the doors in the summer because it's hot and I'd see him standing there like fucking terrified. I don't want anybody to feel that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like a victim anymore. The work that I've done is it's like, I realize like this, I've actually done like you, Gigi, like a pain to power story. Like because of this,
Hmm.
I am extremely sovereign. I advocate for myself and other people in ways that I might not have. I
Yeah.
am a very strong woman in a lot of ways. I trust myself to know how to get myself out of very sticky situations. Like
Yeah.
I feel more loving, I feel more compassionate towards other people. These little girls that I like hold on to in India who've gone through so many things. I'm like, you're a world away, but I get it. Like I was you in so many different ways.
Hmm.
And so I, I teach these things because I want people to feel empowered from their stories and that you can, what might have happened to you is not your fault, but changing it is your responsibility. I'm not going to sit here and go boohoo for the rest of my life. Like poor Mandy.
Mm.
No,
No.
nobody else is going to ever save you and rescue you except you.
Yeah.
And I don't put that on my parents. I don't put that on my aunt who was there. I don't put that on my cousin who was there. Like that is on me to
Hmm.
rescue me.
Yes.
The other side of it, I don't know what happened to him in his life. I don't know what the diagnoses were. I don't know any of those things, but what I do know is that the majority of people who move into psychosis or manic states come also from having their own past experience that is traumatizing.
Yeah.
They come from the war, they're immigrants, there's all of these different things. And so we have to deal with our trauma, or else we become somebody who, on some level or scale, traumatizes other people.
Hmm.
Right. So I'm not a sympathizer with victims or who claim to be victims. I'm not a sympathizer with perpetrators. I'm somebody who's stepping all the way back from it saying, I've definitely been victimized. I've probably also perpetrated in some way, shape, or form, never to the degree that he did with me, but we need to move forward in the world right now. And I'm seeing so many people who are stuck on either one of those tracks,
Right.
sometimes both at the
Yeah.
same time.
And it's like maybe not, obviously being able to control the situation or the things that have happened, but we do get to control our response to it.
Yes.
And I just really want to take a moment and just really honor your courage
Thank you.
to share, because I've known this about you, since met way back when. Um, and I know you've overcome it. I know you've transmuted it, but there's a piece of the story and of sharing that I feel like has been where there's power to be reclaimed here, because it is your story. And, for anyone listening who has this similar experience of the things that happen in your family and keeping quiet for fear of, shaming or hurting others who did not intend to cause any harm. Of course, they didn't intend to cause harm. And, I feel like there is such an opportunity here for you to claim, your truth and share at a deeper level, which I feel like is going to inspire a lot of healing for
Mm,
people listening. So,
thank
and those around you. And
you.
I just
Yeah.
want to really thank you for, being brave and sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for
Hmm.
listening. Always. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have known for a very long time. It was just an easy dynamic in our friendship.
Hmm.
And, last night my husband had said to me, because I was just going through another one of my own like personal growth spurts. And he said, like, who do you really feel safe to be vulnerable with in your life? And I felt pretty grateful to list 4 people. Because for me, vulnerability means that there isn't a fear of judgment on the other side. We can all be vulnerable, but are we ever like fully and completely vulnerable? Only I think if we're not afraid that we're going to be judged or rejected or abandoned or told like you're making all this bullshit up or, you know,
Hmm.
um, and I felt great is just kind of glazing over. I felt deeply grateful to be able to list 4 people in my life because I do have the recognition that not everybody, even listening to this, not everybody on the planet even has one person where they can really share some of these like deeper, oof, like pains and shadows that they hold on to. And the sharing of it is actually what, for me, with you and with my husband John, and then a couple of my other really close friends, is it's what actually started the healing process.
Hmm.
It wasn't going to therapy. It wasn't like engaging on my own self like journey of introspection, is that I first had to say it out loud and
Hmm.
I had to claim it because that's where the power happened.
Yeah.
Right. I started to take power over the experience and the story when I could get it out of me and put it into the room around me.
Yeah.
And what I've witnessed too, as much as I'm like, if you know me, like I'm a major proponent for meditation. Like we need to have some kind of meditation practice in our life, whether you just jump to it every now and again when you're feeling like you're about to have a meltdown, or if this is just a place that you go every single day for 5 minutes or 20 minutes, that is your sanctuary. We all need to have that.
Hmm.
And meditation can be a place that can be very isolating. It can actually keep us, sometimes stuck within ourselves, ruminating
Hmm.
on the past. And so, what has always been important to me, especially when I teach, is it's like, go in, like, what do you see? What do you hear? And then, how do we start to stitch that? And almost, I mean, the word is sutra, right? To suture. How do I start to stitch this back into my life? How do I bring this back into my relationships and into the roles that I play in the world? Because we have chosen to be here in bodies, to be here in relationships. And I always love Ram Dass's quote. It's like, as soon as you think that you're enlightened, just go home.
Just go have a Christmas.
Just go to Sunday night dinner.
Right? Bless our families. And
Right.
wow,
So I would
triggerama.
say, you could swap out that word enlightened with healed. It's just when you were like, yeah, I've healed from that. I've dealt with that. Then go home is go into a familiar place
Mm.
that is going to bring all of those things back up for you again. And so it's not a matter of, that's why I love breath work. It's not a matter of changing the story. I'm not trying to reframe and be like, la, 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 that didn't happen. That didn't happen. It fucking happened.
Yeah.
But I'm no longer emotionally attached. I'm no longer energetically charged by it,
You're not at the
right?
mercy
When
of
you
it.
can read the story to somebody without falling apart every single time.
Yeah.
And the more that you tell your story, but this is important, not from a place of just like regurgitating it over and over again and keeping yourself stuck. But if the intention is there that the more that I share my story in vulnerable places, and I feel loved, I feel held, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel received, I feel welcomed, the more that I can do that from the intention of healing and releasing it, is that every single time I tell it, how do I know if I'm progressing? I don't want to say doing a better job, but how do I know if I'm progressing? Is that I can do it feeling a little bit stronger every time. I
Yeah.
can feel a little bit clearer every time. I can maybe cry a little less. I can maybe be angry a little less every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
only we have that scorecard for ourselves.
I love it. And I think like it just so demonstrates, Brene Brown's work around vulnerability and how the
Yeah.
antidote to shame is vulnerability. So it's
Mm.
literally like, this is a big deal. Like for Mandy to come on this show and share this story, like her experience is a really fucking big deal. And so do you feel like as you share this, like it no longer has as much power over you, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you feel freer.
Yeah. I feel freer.
And so,
I do.
the sharing in it where you can, it's like reclaiming power over the shame, the secret, like secrets, they hold power over us. And so, yeah, I think I'm just so grateful. So let's now chat a little bit about, because you and I both know we talk a lot, in our coffee talks, our one-on-ones,
All the time.
about being triggered. And we live in a
Yeah.
society where like a very triggering experience, the human realm, right? And I know we both believe in being spiritual beings here, having a human experience. And in the human realm, like it's very, very tense. It's very, there's a lot of suffering. And when you look at these things happening, like we could say they are happening to us. This happened to you when you were younger. And what does it look like from the spiritual perspective? Like, can you see what did this experience support in your life that has allowed you to show up in a different way now? Can you share that like correlation with us?
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like I have to take half a step back to that triggering from the spiritual perspective. Because as you were sharing that, like the very first thing that dropped in is it's like, my brother and I grew up in exactly the same house and we both have a very different experience. And to be honest, like I don't even know because I've never really spoken to him about what was your experience of that, right? My perspective was, holy shit, like I was stalked, I was hunted, I was haunted, I was terrorized, I was terrified every single day of my life. And I am very close to my brother, but because of a part of me unpacking all of this is I have not yet, and maybe now this will be a catalyst for that, but entered that realm of strength where I can sit down fully and completely and share with my family like this. See, throat chakra was my experience.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of healing before that has had to come through. But part of me is like, but can I be okay with them saying, well, that wasn't my experience, or it wasn't that bad, or for them to say, actually, it was worse. And for me to still own my experience, but to then be there and to hold space for them for their experience.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of that's part of it. The part that we have to really think about is that then from there, when we allow ourselves to look head on, face on, eye on at the things that really we're the most afraid of in our lives, is that it all goes back to those earlier moments that are very like big T or little t traumatic for us.
Yeah.
And the things that trigger me are not going to be the same things that trigger you, Jeej, or the same things that trigger Elise or like any of our other good friends. And it doesn't mean that whatever was the cause of that triggering in the middle. Actually, I think that's the beautiful thing about these teachings is that it was actually a very neutral experience. And then we are all engaging with that experience based on the accumulation of what we've done, what we've seen, what we felt up until that point in time in our life. And it's like, now you squeeze me and you're going to see whatever juice comes out. Like that's what's on the inside.
Yeah.
It's another saying. It's like, you can't squeeze a lemon and get orange juice. Like you're going to get lemon juice.
Yeah.
Right. So we all get triggered differently. Now, what was your question?
Well, I don't remember, but here's another, let's just keep
Okay.
chatting,
Okay.
is around suffering. Like in
Mm,
the human realm, a lot of the icky things, like it feels like suffering. What I kind of realized through COVID, the Rona,
yeah.
on my shamanic journey was around like really seeing suffering differently, like with a different perspective around really deeply realizing that suffering, like, because as a codependent, as a rescuer,
Yeah.
as like as someone who's gone through my own addictions and suffering, knowing that I actually needed to go through that alone. Like there was no one who could have taken away that experience. Like, and if
Yeah.
they would have removed that experience, I wouldn't be teaching joy right now, literally. So I kind of shifted my perspective of suffering into actually reframing it into healing. Like,
Mm,
because the suffering, whatever that suffering is, it instigates healing. Like
yeah.
it instigate for those who want to. Like there is the potential to now transmute this into my own healing. And what does that piece look like?
Yeah.
Right?
So, okay, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Because the here's the thing, and this might trigger some people who are on here right now. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay to be your neutral person that triggers you. um, Pain and suffering are not the same thing. And we often get that confused.
Yeah.
So, pain is something that is felt physically in the body, but it could come from an emotional perspective or an emotional source, right? It's a deep grief of a loss. It's like, I feel that physical pain on my heart. I feel it in my throat. Okay. It can also be putting your finger on a hot stove. Like that is pain. So pain has a purpose. It's not even, we say pain to purpose, but pain actually has the purpose. And ultimately what that pain is doing, these sensory sites inside of our body is it's saying, move, motherfucker. Get out of there. Like you're in
Move,
pain
bitch, get
because
out the way.
right?
Get out
Get
the
out the way. Get out the way. Yeah. Like get your fucking hand off the stove. Like it's painful because you're not supposed to keep your hand there.
Yes.
You're in physical pain right now because this partner keeps yelling at you or pissing you off, or you walk in and you feel pain the second you walk in your office every single day. This is your body saying, move,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not supposed to be there anymore.
This is not
So
safe.
the pain is actually, it's very temporary.
Mm-hmm.
The original or the what's the word I'm looking at? I'll say the origin.
Stimulus?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a pretty scientific, weird word.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
When pain happens, clearly we're not linguists. Like, is it linguistic? We're not linguistics around here. We're not even linguists. Oh my God. I'm usually like really good with words, except today. What was I saying? Okay, pain.
Yeah.
The pain stimulus,
Yeah.
I'll use your word stimulus. The pain stimulus technically is not designed to actually last longer than 45 to 60 seconds.
Mm.
After that, unless in my head, I'm like, well, what if like your leg is getting chopped off or something? Like, I don't know, like just forget that. Like, this isn't real science. This is Mandy Trapp science and Jillian science right now. But what I
She's
do
got a
know
point.
from
Let's just,
sciencing in university is that I actually did take training in school. I'm educated. Pain it's very short-lived.
yes.
But then the suffering that continues to
The
happen
clinging.
after that, that's the choice. That's the part that's triggery for people. And people are like, I've been in so much pain in this relationship. I've been in so much pain because this thing happened to me. I'm in so much pain because I was abused. I could say that. The truth is that that's not pain, that's suffering. And that suffering is the choice. It's the choice to stay in it.
Mm.
And it's the choice to stay in it physically, like with your body. It's a choice to stay in it mentally, with your thoughts, with the way that sometimes our need to be seen, heard, loved, belong, the way that we find that need to be met within ourselves is to stay stuck in the story and to allow other people to say, oh, poor you, poor you. Like, I can't believe this happened to you. And so sometimes that's hard to spit yourself out of that wheel, to let go of the story, because it also means like, oh, well, people abandon me if I'm no longer the victim.
Mm-hmm.
If now all of a sudden I rise and, I think about a girlfriend of mine who's my age, who's a widow, whose husband passed very suddenly, great friend of ours. And now, a lot of people rallied around her as they should. And she still needs love and care and attention. It's not gone, but she's also finding joy in her life and another partner. And I know as for a fact, like people have their own opinions about that.
Mm.
And maybe some people are pulling back, like, how dare she partner up with somebody else? She should be grieving, her dead husband for the rest of their life. And we do get afraid of dropping the story, dropping the pain,
Mhm.
dropping the suffering, because then, oh my gosh, people are going to see me differently, or they're not going to see me anymore at all.
Mm.
But in fact, that's what is necessary for us to transform, to start to shift into a place of power. And I think partly, good or bad, right or wrong, judge it how you want to. There was a part of me that has never really shared my pain story. I share my power story, and people see me as like,
Yeah.
yeah, Mandy, you're so empowered and you're so courageous and you're so, you know, just all of these wonderful things. And it wasn't until you said to me, Jeej, like, would you really be open to sharing the deeper pains of what it is that you've navigated in your life?
Mhm.
And, one of the many things that came up that I had shared earlier is it's just like, I don't want to be identified as that person because I don't feel like that person anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the girl that was powerless. I don't feel like the girl who had to run and hide all the time. I don't feel like her anymore. There's still parts of, that 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old girl, little Mandy, that every now and again I have to reach in and like really let her roar
Mhm.
or let her cry and sob, and I have to hold her. And that's very much a smaller part of me, but it's not the way that I want to be identified.
Yeah. Okay,
You
so
know? Yeah.
100%. I get it. And
Yeah.
and that's how I see you, like as this empowered
Yeah.
person, woman leader, like lighting it up. Okay, so if you could just share with us now, you are in a place where you're turning the pain into power. What does that look like for you?
Hmm. It's funny, sometimes when you just like get somewhere in your car and then you're like, how did I get here? Like, were all of the lights green along the way? Did I run red lights? And you're like, how the hell did I get here? How did I get here? Well, okay. So first of all, I think a part of what was happening, to go all the way back to when I was 5 and having all of these like incredible visits and support from off earth guidance. Do we want to call it like spiritual guidance?
Mm.
Also, like really super sharpened my intuition and my instinct.
Mm.
And what was one thing that helped me in this realm and dimension to stay safe and protected? I didn't really realize it a little bit later on in my life. Like, I just thought everybody had super intuition. I thought everybody was in touch with their instincts. And I would be guided from what felt very divine and very magical, hearing voices and hearing guides, like from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And but what I want to say, which is really interesting, is that also around that time, because this is important for me to share. When I would walk to school, I started taking a different route to school in elementary school
Mhm.
before we moved to the city. But I'm in elementary school, grade 3, grade 4.
Mhm.
And I would have to start taking a different route because the route that I did take to get to the school that was closer would go through the trees. And I was really freaked out that I could be stolen in the bush, kind of a thing, and nobody would ever know. Right. So I started walking all the way around, and I would walk past the Catholic church. And I was baptized Catholic. I wouldn't say that I'm definitely not a practicing Catholic on a lot of different ways. We would go sometimes as a kid, for sure, Easter and Christmas and all of those times. But I would often sit inside of that church by myself,
Mm.
8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, on my way home, because there was something that was pulling me in. There was like a safety and there was a peace inside of the silence. I don't know what else I was looking for. Maybe sometimes we don't even need to know what it is. I can't think it with my head, but that's where I would go to feel a bit safe.
Mm.
And this is going to sound so funny and so crazy. It won't to you, Jej, but maybe to some other people. But one of the guides that I would always see standing in there looked like Jesus, but
Jesus.
it wasn't white Jesus, although I don't think Jesus was
Well,
really
this
white, but
Jesus
he's
white.
like
That
the
is a
Catholic
good.
Jesus is
Yeah.
white, but this was brown Jesus.
Okay. Oh
This is
yeah.
brown Jesus.
Mhm.
da-da, da-da.
Enter exhibit
If you're on
A.
YouTube, you just saw a quick sneak peek. It was brown Jesus. And so
Zoom
like,
in.
it's so freaking crazy. Like they should honestly, I've had a really crazy life. I'm not even like getting into the depths.
We're gonna
We'll
have so
to
many
do
more
like 10 different
episodes.
episodes, but
Yes. This is just
I would see
number one.
brown Jesus all the time.
Mhm.
Standing in the corner, like in an orange robe, sometimes in a white robe, but he became very comforting for me, but I'd only ever see him in that church, but he looked different than the Jesus up on the pictures.
Yeah.
But, you know, following intuition, and I did everything that I could, I think, in my life as a teenager to work through the amount of stress. It was very instinctive to me, and I was very athletic, and I really lost myself in athletics.
Mm.
In the back of my head, the faster that I can be, the faster that I can run, the better that I can get away. Like the more mobile and agile that I am, the more that I can
Survival.
hide. Like it's just was always a thing. And the more perfect I can be, the more people that I'd have around me who would always be keeping me safe and protecting me. And so I always did well in sports. I always did well, you know, in school and in everything else, which, you know, again, outside looking in, everybody's like, oh yeah, it must be nice to be so like naturally gifted at everything. And maybe I did have like some natural abilities and things, but I worked really hard to always be the strongest, the toughest, right?
One
Kind of
step
weird.
ahead.
Strongest, toughest, always one step ahead.
Mm.
Always one step ahead. So that was really guiding me in a physical way. And then when I had graduated from high school, it was just a very easy kind of move into like, well, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to double down on being the strongest, toughest, whatever. I'm going to be a personal trainer. I'm going to work with athletes. I'm going to do this. But the like freaking spirit is so funny, the way that things operate. Like when you really listen to your own intuition, and we do all have an intuition, just most of us don't listen to it. As soon as I started personal training, and of course, right away I graduate and I get the best job in the best studio working with like the best people, the best clients, like the best athletes, all of these things. And what was like new and trendy at the time, are you ready? Yoga. Yoga really
You just aged yourself.
came fast on the scene about 24 years ago. Let me tell you, it was the new latest thing. Lululemon was not even invented yet. Oh my gosh. And
We didn't even have, wait for it, cell phones.
my husband bought me my first little flip phone. Remember when you had to text people
The
and like hit
Motorola.
each button like
Yeah. 3 letters a button.
3 times to get that letter? Didn't it
Yeah.
remind you of like when you had to dial the rotary phone and the last one you accidentally put your finger in the wrong slot and you're like, "Dang!" and you had to start all
There
over
was
from the
another 10
beginning.
minutes.
There was no smartphones. There was no taking pictures of what Jillian and I were doing when we were 18.
Thank
God. We were living parallel lives, working at Earl's, going to university, making very bad choices.
I also shifted schools in grade 4.
Oh,
Middle of grade 4. Yeah.
I didn't
When
know
you
this
told your
about
story, I
you.
was like, oh, that's interesting. And I also had my first like connection with spirit at that time. We can talk about it later, but
yeah,
it was really
part 2, part 3.
Yeah, part 2.
Let's talk about it.
part 2.
But you know, the really kind of like that, like the biggest synchronicity that I would say where I started to feel free. Let's go there, where I started to feel like, wait a second here. I don't need to run my whole life. There's actually, there's already support, or not, I don't really know how to put it, but there's something bigger that's happening here that is a bigger opportunity beyond the Mandy running and hiding and doing her thing.
You started coming
And so
home.
it was in my first year of personal training, and I decided to do a yoga teacher training. And even at that time, like there really weren't like 200-hour yoga trainings in Canada for sure. So I went and took like a 2-week learn to teach yoga in Vancouver. And my boss at the training studio, who's like a really good friend of mine, he's like, hey, Mandy, I know you're into this like yoga thing, whatever that is. He goes, but I want to give you this yoga book that one of our Indian clients gave us, and you could probably have more use for it than me. And so it's like a, you know, old school, like old Indian dude on the cover. I'll never forget it. It's this huge picture book. He gave it to me. And as I was flipping through, there was one page only. This was after I did my yoga training. There was zero conversation about meditation or anything. This was just posture based. There was one page with this like beautiful older Indian woman, like in her sari and her like bindi, and she's got her legs crossed, and she's like this chubby, happy little Buddha-esque kind of being with this like eyes closed, like content smile on her face. And there was just one paragraph beside her that talked about meditation,
Mm.
and that meditation is this and meditation is that. You're not even going to believe it, but that was the first time in my life I'd ever heard of meditation.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that everything that I had been doing for the 19 to 20 years before that to try to like keep me safe, who's here for me, who's here, like what can I visualize, like plugging my ears from like the banging on the windows. I'm like, holy shit, I've been meditating the whole time. Like other people do this? What? This is a thing? It honestly changed my whole, like, I'm like, this is a superpower. This isn't just me running away and hiding. There's actually purpose and meaning in this.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Holy son of
So
a shit.
was the internet invented? Okay, the internet was invented. Oh my
Oh
God.
my God, we're aging ourselves.
But like, of course, with like one computer in our house, and I
Google
go
was
home
not
and I start
happening
doing some
then.
research. Yeah. And I'm like, books on meditation, and a Deepak Chopra book popped up. And I was like, oh, there was no like Amazon or anything. I'm like, okay, whatever this book is called. I don't even think chapters was, I'm not that old, but it feels old. So I go to the library and I take out a book that Deepak had written. I'm like, he's even at that point, and now he's like in his 75 books or something, but he'd maybe only written 10 at that time. And I wanted this one meditation book, but they didn't have it. But the only book that they had was a book called The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire, which
Ooh.
I'm like,
Oh, I have full shivers right now.
what the hell does that mean? I don't know, but clearly I was guided through to Deepak, and maybe he'll talk about it. And I opened this book, and it was maybe complete disclosure, like the first book I ever actually read cover to cover,
Mm.
even in school. I was like, oh, what's the gist of this? So there's Cole's Notes somewhere that I can write a book report on.
Yeah.
But really what the book wasn't specifically about meditation, but it was talking about paying attention to synchronistic events in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Spontaneous fulfillment of desire is a fancier way to say that whatever we desire in any moment, and that desire could be safety, that desire could be, spiritual connection or a new partner, that in that moment, that the ability for that desire to be fulfilled is already here.
Mm-hmm.
And so how quickly it happens is how open are you to paying attention to the fact that the next step is already here for you, and then the next step and the next step. So it's paying attention to synchronicities, which then Deepak has this beautiful word that is synchrodestiny.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh,
Trap, where you been hiding that word?
I know,
Wow.
sister. I've been waiting. I've been holding out on you. I can't give it all up at once.
Wow, I love it.
And the beautiful thing was that even though I did not understand 90% of what he was talking about in that book, like the seeds were planted for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the seeds were planted, like, pay attention, right? Whatever has come before, like you will be guided out of it. You will be guided away from it. You will be guided through it, right? At the end of the day, you are being guided to be able to use whatever's happening to fuel your next step of your journey. And then that's what happened. Very shortly thereafter, I was guided to attend some sort of like, and I never went before, I've never gone again, like Soul and Spirit Expo event at like a big conference center. And I walked the trade show floor with my husband, and there was a booth with this beautiful woman standing there, and just on an easel, a great big huge picture of Deepak's face.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I know you. Okay. And I started chatting with her, and she's like, yeah, I teach this course, and it's all about meditation and everything. And I was like, that's it, I'm signing up. So I signed John and I up, and like foolish me, I was like, is Deepak teaching this course? Like, does he come? Well, it was like 2 weeks later in Edmonton, and it was like John and I and one other person for a weekend.
Yeah.
And in the first hour of that weekend, I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be to learn this. And by lunchtime on that first day, I knew that it makes me want to cry. Actually, like I knew that that's what I was supposed to teach. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that became like really the very beginning of me, I don't even say reclaiming my power, but actually transmuting
You're paying into
everything that I
purpose.
had experienced to the point that we'll save this for part 2, that I've actually recognized on a soul level that while I might not have called in, this is really difficult to say out loud because I know that it will be triggering for some people, but I'm here. I might not have called in exactly how traumatic that was, but I made a soul agreement with him
Mm.
because I know in my heart that I meant to teach and to share this message, that it wouldn't be as potent. Even if people don't know my story, I know that people have experiences when they're taking my classes or when they're in my presence. But I would not be nearly as potent and as convicted of a teacher if I had not gone through everything that I went through. I just wouldn't.
100%. 100%.
So that needed to happen. And I've not only have I made peace with it, but I've actually made power with it.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
There you go.
Oh, Mandy Trapp. This is just the beginning.
Mm.
And I see you. I love you. I so appreciate you. I'm so grateful for your light in this world. Like, you started off as a teacher and now you're my bestie. I feel like it's an absolute joy to be able to experience this life with you. And I'm really fucking proud of you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for your courage today.
Can't wait for part 2 where I can tell you more about brown Jesus.
Oh my God, you guys, you are gonna die. This is nuts. Like this, it gets so good. So
It gets so good.
I'm gonna tee us up, okay?
Okay.
TSN turning point. Okay, so next time we meet, we're gonna talk about, or next episode, we're gonna talk about Mandy's meditation journey. Like, we need to dive more into that. I want to hear about breath work as well, because I know that started like way before you started. There's just so many synchronicities. And I'm so excited for you to see yourself, like to see your life in such a different way, and to see these messages and guides and things happening as more magical than you might know. Because it is all connected. And yeah, I'm just excited for Mandy to share. Who knows where we'll end up, on this next round.
Road trip.
Road trip. Get your beef jerky, start the car. We're going on another trip. And for today, I just want to again say thank you for being here. I love you so much. And stay tuned for the next one, you guys.
I love you. Thank you, Gigi. And thank you, everybody, for listening and holding space through the airways for me to be able to share this story. I don't take that lightly. Thank you.
Also, let's just share where to find you, because everyone needs your magic.
Everywhere. Arcturus. No, I'm just kidding. my
tinfoil. Put on your tinfoil hats. Let's give her.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Yes, you can find me mandytrapp.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Mandy Trapp. You can find me on Facebook, Mandy Trapp. And we'll leave it there. You can find me around. You can find me around. I teach a lot at Edmonton. I also have a beautiful retreat property in Vernon in the Okanagan in British Columbia. And you can probably find me there.
Yeah. You can find her everywhere.
Yeah.
Definitely reach out. Definitely follow. Mandy has so much magic and medicine for us all. So stay tuned till part 2.
Thank you.